Style for Life. I'm Stephanie Rumble, fashion stylist, accountability coach, and your guide to feeling good in your body and your clothes. Based in Christchurch, New Zealand, I bring over 3 decades of experience in fashion, fitness, and wellness to help you feel strong, stylish, and self-assured. Together we'll explore the emotional, physical, and practical sides of style, because true confidence starts from within. No matter your age or size, you deserve to feel confident and show up as the best version of you. I truly believe this. This is Style for Life. Morning everybody, and welcome to my podcast this morning. And I'm just having a go here at videoing again, as you can see. And just so you know, often when I video my podcast, I am not in a studio or doing it when I'm actually going out to work. So I'm going out to the gym after this podcast this morning. And so I'm just in my gym clothes, so not the actual beautiful things I usually wear when I'm working in my other job. So podcast today is why do we get grumpy as we age and how to prevent it. Why did I decide to talk about this? Look, I was running a half marathon last weekend with myself, with nobody else. And it was my first one back. I was back after obviously having some time off with surgery and all of the things that went on. And I was having quite a good time. It was hard, I was hurting, I was feeling tired, I was feeling confronted and all those things that go with a half marathon when you haven't run a half marathon for a really long time, which for me was a couple of months. And I had another lady who looked to be about my age, and look, you don't know when you're out in these events who's your age and who's not, and she was quite close behind me, and we sort of ran with each other for a bit and sort of had a very brief chat, as you do. Chats are very brief when you're doing something like this. A couple of times we came across the marshals who are helping with the event, and I always smile and say hello and thank them. And at one point there was a whole lot of traffic backing up, and heaps of traffic, like right down to the intersection. So I thought to myself, I'm just going to run to the side of the traffic so the traffic can pass, because I felt quite bad for the traffic people. Anyway, long story short, as we got to the corner where we were running beside the traffic, she decided to take a different route. Everyone else was behind me. And I said, oh, look, I just ran this way to let the traffic go. She said, I'm not worrying about the traffic. I just want to get this run done. And a couple of other times, she was grumpy. And look, I just thought to myself, we don't need to get grumpier as we age. It's one of those things that does happen. Sometimes you meet someone a bit older and they struggle with positivity. Or as we get older, we feel more grumpy. And I've been reflecting on this and thinking, why do we do this and what can we do about it? And it's really interesting, as you go through life's transitions, you have the early life where nothing's affected you too much. You've had a few setbacks, but not so many that you feel like life's just set you back the whole time. And then, you head into another stage of life, and it may be your 20s, late 20s, early 30s, and you have children, and they kind of bring you joy. You might be feeling grumpy, but they're joyful and happy and upbeat generally. Children are like this. So you don't let yourself get into that phase, and then they grow up and become teenagers and you get busy and they bring energy and vigor to the house. And again, if you haven't got children, it might be a stage of life where you're building your career, or you've got a lot of people around you. You tend to be quite social, and then you get to the stage of life where they leave home, and that can be really confronting. And actually, what the research I looked at said your early 50s are often your happiness low point, because you have high stress jobs, family and financial responsibilities, or your children have left home, or you feel like your life's not turned out as you want. Interesting, because I'm right in that stage right now. So am I at a happiness low point? I don't know. Maybe sometimes, more than I have been in my life. Don't know. I don't know that it's a low point. Definitely there's less people around now in my life to prop me up than there were and historically. So prop me up meaning that my parents were around and I could talk to them a lot, and now that option isn't there. Obviously my father's not here, and my mother, it's not quite as easy as it was for her. So, and less friends, yes, probably. Your circle gets smaller when your children leave. You have to work harder with your friends, so maybe that has an impact. But I did do some research on the 5 reasons we may get grumpy when we age. And the first is what we call hormonal reasons. So obviously we all know that there's hormones change. So dopamine declines as we age. That's the hormone of making us feel happier. That's why often older people do find that the antidepressant medication can be helpful. So dopamine declines as we age, and that can cause dopamine deficient depression, right? So that can be a starting point for hormonal changes and making people feel a little bit less positive. So that can just happen as a matter of course. So you can just feel a little bit lower, right? Sometimes menopause in men and menopause in women and andropause in men. So we don't talk about men, do we? We talk about women. There's such a lot of talk about menopause in women, and we know that this causes physical changes, that all the physical changes of menopause, and I've talked about this quite a lot. So, mood swings, hot flashes, weight gain, brain fog, all the things that go with women can make you feel much less happy. So physical changes, and also you can get sadness, irritability, and anxiety as well. So that happens a lot for women as well when they go through menopause. So that's the hormones declines. The hormones that decline are estrogen and progesterone, and to a smaller degree testosterone as well. So we have all 3 hormones. Women have mainly the estrogen decline is what causes these things. So there's some ways to get around that, and I wonder if this generation, my generation, will be a little happier as we age, because we've been so much more onto it with HRT, and it's so much safer and more accessible than it was for my mother. My mother didn't even know about it, and I do know she battled through menopause. I remember watching her battle and hearing about her battle. Now let's talk about men. We don't talk about men very often, and research tells me that around 50% of men experience what we call andropause. Now this is where their testosterone drops. Now just going back to women for a minute, when they go through menopause, their decline in hormones presents as low moods. They'll identify as feeling sad, irritable, anxious, right? So men, when they go through what we call andropause, or the hormones decline, so it's not quite the same as women where it's sort of up, down, up, down, up, down, and then all gone. Men sort of goes on a steady decline and then, sort of levels off, right? So what they can experience is loss of fitness, hair thinning, a baldness. So this can come with testosterone drop as well. Now obviously there's male pattern baldness, which is quite different, but then the hair thinning baldness thing that comes with age, erectile dysfunction. So that may have been something that wasn't a problem in the past. It can actually become more of a dysfunction. Again, it makes sense when you haven't got as much testosterone. And then weight gain. So you do see men with those big barrel bellies, and you notice that men's weight tends to go on through the midsection just because of the way that the testosterone decline causes that too. So really interesting. But what happens with men is they don't express their low mood in the same way as women do. They don't say they're sad, irritable, or anxious. They just feel angry. So they mask their depression with anger. And this is often just part of our cultural norms. So where women exhibit low mood, men mask their depression with anger. Hence the many angry old men syndrome. So hormonal changes can be part of making you feel less happy and making you feel more grumpy. And also can make you feel like you don't cope as well with all of life's challenges. So that's the first thing that came up when I researched why we may get more grumpy when we age, hormonal changes. The second is physical ailments and chronic pain. So obviously as we age, our body starts to wear out a little bit more, and we do find that we've got more niggles than we used to have, and we feel more sore. So we may have sore joints, we may have chronic pain, we may have a condition that causes us to be sore. So for example, think of hips. So people who start to get sore hips, that often start to happen in their 50s or 60s, and then they end up having hip replacements later in life. So physical ailments can make you feel like pain is there all the time. So if you've had a back issue, for example, and back issues can be, again, a problem that comes with age. Back issues can cause you to feel really, really uncomfortable, can be really preoccupying. They can cause lack of sleep. They can cause fatigue and mood swings as well. So again, physical ailments and chronic pain can make you feel more grumpy. And you can end up having medication for these things, which can cause mood swings or emotional outbursts. So what do we do to prevent this? My recommendation is, as soon as you get a niggle, get onto it. Don't wait till it turns into a full-blown issue. That is exactly what I suggest. You can, honestly, physical ailments and chronic pain require you to deal with them. So to stay doing what I do, which one of the reasons I do what I do is I want to be committed into my old age with being in a good physical state, is I visit an osteopath, a physio, and a massage therapist. Now, I don't do them all always in one week because it's a bit much financially for me, but generally most weeks I see at least one, if not two of them. So this week I see a personal trainer and I'm seeing my osteopath, physio. She's an osteopath and physio together because I just need to get on top of some issues that I've been having. So the issues are only small because I'm always on top of them. And they don't always go away entirely. I just manage them. So I think that's another thing to think about, guys, is you don't always get on top of them. They don't vanish. You just need to manage them. So really keep that in mind when you do have those little niggles and things that come up. Then the other thing that can cause grumpiness is dementia. Dementia's a really insidious, slow creep that can start really early in life and creep its way through your life, and all of a sudden it's there and you can't manage it. So, I really suggest that if you are concerned about getting dementia or Alzheimer's, that you take charge of your health now. Whatever age you're at, whoever you are listening to this, look at what prevents it and start putting those practices in place. Because it's really interesting how it can just start. And it's sometimes hard to know whether the hormonal changes we're experiencing with menopause or andropause are actually hormonal, or whether sometimes we can feel like we're getting dementia. I do know when I started going through menopause, I felt really worried about my memory loss, and the hormonal changes associated with menopause really cause some of similar sort of memory loss symptoms. But anyway, again, once you get on top of those hormonal changes, if you can, and you can, by the way, the hormonal changes you can get on top of. So coming back to that, you can have hormone supplements, which are very medically proven to be safe. Physical ailments and chronic pain, you can prevent. So you can, or not prevent, but you can manage if they can't be prevented. So I fully believe that. Dementia, again, there's things you can do to look into our future, hoping we can prevent. Some research indicates that about 50% of dementia can be prevented. Some of it just comes. So again, some of these things do come, and it's really terrible luck. Number 4, another reason why we get grumpy as we age is loneliness. And look, it's so much harder. If you've had children and they've kept you busy, it's so much harder to make the effort to go out and actually make friends and meet people and do things once your children are not there to sort of push you into that, or you haven't got a workplace that pulls you into that. So a third of older adults suffer from isolation and loneliness. It's really bad when they live alone and they lose their circle of friends. Your circle of friends becomes smaller. And having a smaller circle of friends can mean that an older person loses their social skills. So when you're not out in the world interacting, you can lose your ability to socialise in a way that works for you. So again, that loneliness piece is making the effort, reaching out to other people, getting out there and actually, putting yourself out there in terms of friends, putting yourself out there in terms of other people, so that you are right there with other people, making the effort, setting up something every day. I've got a really good friend. Many of you have heard me talk about Bruce. He's my friend. He lost his wife about 5 years ago. He's in his 70s, and he makes a really big effort now that he's retired. He retired from his job 5, 6, 7 years ago, I think it was, and he makes a big effort. He's always having coffees with people. He tells me he doesn't always love playing golf or playing bowls, but he does it because he knows he's interacting with other people. There's lots and lots of classes, fitness classes, other classes if you're not into that where you have other people around you. So, and I do notice that some of my relatives live in retirement villages and villas, and they really make the most of the other people around them. Now, if that's not what you want to do, or that's not something is in your life plan, you need to make sure that you are going out into social places and meeting people regularly and forcing yourself out the door. Even if you perceive yourself to be an introvert, you still need to be interacting with other people in order to not suffer from isolation and loneliness. We have a changing world, and this makes a huge difference to how we feel about the world. So, I know myself, I feel overwhelmed with technology. I'm using new technology for my podcast today again, and it's been challenging. I'm not going to lie. I feel challenged. I've had to work harder. I've had to give myself time, and the changing social roles is really, really important. In the past, where you may have been in a position of responsibility, had a lot of people maybe looking up to you, or you've been in a leadership position and then you age and you don't have that anymore, that can feel really challenging. I've met people who this has been challenging for. So they've been in a very senior role, they've had lots of leadership, and as they've aged, that's changed and people don't look up to them, they don't have the same level of respect that they used to feel they had. So they've had to adjust their life with that, and that's felt difficult. So yeah, again, remembering that can be really hard. Your roles change, you've got to change with it. You've got to understand that, be self-aware, and work through that. So also tech can make you feel like you don't belong and feel overwhelmed. Like I said, different technology, you get a new phone, you don't know how to back things up, you don't know what your passwords are. You've got to keep up with that. Keeping up with that is so important because it's part of our world. And I was listening to another really good podcast yesterday, Diary of a CEO. I really like his podcast. And I was listening to one about investments in AI. And honestly, AI is moving really, really quickly. So it's really important to keep up with that, keep on top of it. How does it fit into your world? If AI is going to be part of your world, some people are not going to need it as much as others, and that's only part of tech. There's so many other things too, but just the basics of knowing how to log into to things, how to order things online, how to do your banking online, how to book flights, all of those things which mean that you've got to constantly be using it, which can feel counterintuitive to the way you've interacted and dealt with things in the past. So again, social media, I have people who go, oh, can't do social media, and I understand that can feel really challenging, but it's also really important that you understand how that works even if you're not on it, because that's part of our changing world, and that if you're not part of it, you get left behind and you can get isolated. So now we've talked about why we get grumpy. Let's look at some things you can do to prevent grumpiness. And I came up with 7 things. And I just wanted, before I talk about them, to say that with age comes conservatism and judgmentalism. So I just think, be aware of this. Be aware of being conservative and judgmental. It's often perceived as other groups as grumpiness. So conservatism and judgmentalism can be an issue, and it can be perceived by others as grumpiness. So if you're becoming more conservative and you're getting really judgmental of others, really judgmentalism is not great. If you're in judgment, you're not empathetic. Being empathetic is very endearing and it helps people relate to you. So let's just be aware that that's something that can happen with age too. So let's not do that. So 7 things we can do to prevent grumpiness. The first is have some purpose and make sure that you're either working part-time or you're volunteering or you're in some type of meaningful work for you. So I know that when my mother moved to Christchurch, she actually had a part-time job and worked in a place where she taught bridge lessons. She really is really, really good at card games, really good at bridge, and she worked part-time there for a really, really long time, and even now still volunteers and goes in and helps people out and teaches them how to play bridge, which is actually really good. So that's just something she does. I know that my in-laws do lots of volunteering. They're very heavily involved in the church, which is really cool for them. And they also do a lot of work in the sort of nature space as well. So they have a lot of meaning and purpose. And when you look at our blue zones, and I've talked about the blue zones a bit before in the past, they're the places in the world, the 5 places in the world where we have the largest number of centurions. So there's the people who live over the age of 100. And one of the key reasons that they live so long is they have real purpose. So they either live with families and they have purpose in the family situation, or they just interact a lot with other people their own age and they keep connected. So keeping connected, keeping your community big, having a large number of friends is also really, really important. So that's really important to have purpose. Second is take care of your body. Now, we talked about this a little bit before about why we get grumpy, and that's physical ailments and chronic pain. And I understand that sometimes the bad luck just hits you and you have really problematic issues. Now, again, taking care of your body, that's exercise, that's food, that's sleep. And much and all, it might feel like it's too difficult to exercise. I know that I go on about this all the time, but you know, it's not just so that you can be thin and fit into your clothes, and sometimes that's what people want from exercise and nutrition, etc. It's so you can be healthy, so you can feel good, so you can show up in the world as your best possible self continually and right through your life. So, you know, looking after your body, taking care of it, and that is not just walking, although that's a good start. There's lots of other things too. It's fitness and exercise is about strength, it's about flexibility, it's about cardiovascular fitness, and it's also about balance. So working on all of those physical things helps you to show up. And as you get older, it's really important that the 4 elements work together so you can actually stand on one leg. You are flexible enough to do up your shoelaces. You're strong enough to lift up a gas bottle or something you need to lift into your car, and you're fit enough that you can walk round the block or do the things you need to do. So you can walk into the grocery store, you can go walking with a friend. There are the things that help you continue to be good in your old age. So you need to make sure you're eating properly too. The inside of your body is just as important as the outside. So what's happening inside your body, like what's going on, what's happening for you. You know, what are you putting in there? Are you putting in food that's looking after your body? And are you sleeping? If you're not sleeping, again, I know sleep is really tricky for some people, but what can you do to manage that? And I did a whole episode on sleep, so do feel free to go back and have a look at that episode and listen to that on sleep if you're struggling. Because again, I've battled for probably 4 years with sleep, through COVID and then through menopause. They all kind of collided. And I now can say, hand on heart, that I can sleep, and actually all night now. Oh my gosh, it's starting to be, I think I'm coming through this. So again, really long-term strategy for managing sleep, and I'm quite vigilant about my routine. That's number 2. So take care of your body, exercise, food, sleep. Number 3, examine your attitude today. What is it like? Are you carrying unresolved baggage? You know, I think this is a really key issue. We talk about our physical health, which I've just talked about, and our mental health becomes really, really important as we age. So, you know, I've done a lot of work in the last month, you know, talking to people about change adoption, talking to them about managing their stress, looking at resilience, looking at all of the things that formulate your attitude, right? So what's it like? Are you carrying unresolved baggage? How is that going to show up in your old age? You will carry it like a massive backpack into your old age if you do not find a way to deal with it. And look, this is contentious, but I'm very much on the page of speaking with a therapist, talking to somebody about why you're doing the stuff you're doing, unpacking it. Talk to somebody who is there, can listen, will be able to do this for you, and, you know, really talk to them. Get them to help you with some strategies to unpack it, because in the end, you are the master of your destiny. And if the stuff that's happened in your past, and I'm not saying that that's not difficult, not hard, not giving you some reason to feel upset and feeling a bit stressed, you know, feeling you've got unresolved baggage, you know, speak to a therapist, speak to somebody who can help you, because going into your old age, this is only going to come up, show up and be there in a bigger way. So, you know, can you let it go? Have you got strategies that you really let it go if you just pushed it away? And then how are you going to manage that going forward? That's number 3, examine your attitude. The next is make new friends and join groups now. And I know myself, this is something I've had to push myself into. So make new friends, join groups now. So you're surrounded by people and family and friends and other people as you age. So you actually have people that you like, people you connect with, people that you relate to, so you can actually go out and do things. I listened to a really great talking book recently. Oh my gosh, it was so good. I have to look up and see what it was called. And this particular woman was an elderly woman, and she lost her 2 best friends who were her neighbours, and they were people that she actually really, really liked. They were people that she related to. She was on her own. She lost her husband at the same time, and she was bereft. And then she actually ended up joining some aqua fitness classes, I think it was, or something like that, and ended up meeting someone else. Now the book was called Here One Moment, it was called, by Leanne Moriarty, Here One Moment. And it was really, it did talk about seniors, and probably prompted part of this podcast for me too. And she managed to find new groups and do new things. And it's hard, you get sad, grief hits you, but you need to keep making new friends, joining new groups. I noticed my friend Bruce did this as well. Like, he doesn't mind me talking about him. He also, you know, joined the bowls club. he's been in our running group but isn't able to run as much now, but he still keeps in touch with us, still comes to coffee with us. Number 5 is ask for help when you need it. And I think we all get thinking that other people can't help us. We don't want to bother them. We don't want to reach out. They're too busy. All of those things. And, a lot of people like helping. So, when my mum asks for help, if I can't do it, Dave will help her. So ask for help when you need it. Don't be scared to reach out. That's really important too. Number 6 is surround yourself with positive people who lift you up and make you feel good about you. So they're people who are in your world, are there, who you like, who you want to hang out with. And again, you're the sum total of the 5 closest people to you. When I heard this, I was doing a presentation last week on attitude and lead, and I really started thinking about this. Who are the 5 people closest to me that lift me up and make me feel good about me? And those positive people that lift you up, make you feel good, really formulate who you are. Do you have that really close person to you that really fills your cup, that makes you feel good, that lifts you up, makes you feel good about you? So again, those positive people make a difference. If you're surrounded by people who are negative, again, it's hard not to slip into that narrative. So who are they, and are they positive? And do you essentially have an optimistic attitude? Again, there can be optimist, realist, and pessimist, and which one of those formulates who you are, and how do you choose that? And I know life's challenges can push you down into pessimism sometimes as well. Then number 7, the 7 of 7 is challenge your brain with new skills, word games, a new club or a new challenge. And again, I think about this quite a bit. I'm always having to learn new choreography for my job as a fitness instructor, which is quite tricky and difficult and challenging. And I think, you want to be doing something new, so something different and new in this space as well. So what are your new skills, new word games, or new challenges that you can set for yourself? I know one of the things that I set for myself this year is to perhaps do some more study. And I'm looking into doing that next semester. In fact, that's on my to-do list for today, is to look into that and enroll. So what are your new skills? What are your new games? Or do you want to just do Sudoku? It doesn't have to be a university paper or a paper. It can be something else. Actually, I've heard of the University of the Third Age. I met a lovely lady on a plane who was only in her 60s, early 60s, and she was going to University of the Third Age, and that's, going to lectures that are intellectual and challenging. I know that my parents had been to that a bit as well. So challenging your intellectual stimulation, and that's really good. Or if that's not your gig, is it a Sudoku? Is it a word game? Is it a new skill you're learning? Is it something physical? Is it line dancing? So what is it that you can enjoy? So 7 things you can do to prevent grumpiness. Have some purpose. Take care of your body through your whole life. Exercise, food, and sleep. I know this is a theme, isn't it, in all my podcasts. Examine your attitude today. If you're carrying unresolved baggage, get to speak to a therapist, speak to a professional, deal with that unresolved baggage so it doesn't sitting there beside you for your whole life. Make new friends, join new groups so you're surrounded by family and friends through all of your life, and that extends into your old age. Ask for help when you need it, so you've got help there when you need it. Surround yourself with positive people. You're the sum total of the 5 people closest to you, and challenge your brain with new skills, word games, or a new challenge. So kia kaha, everybody. Thank you for listening today. I'd love some suggestions on what you would like to hear on the podcast. Always up for hearing that. And again, I really appreciate all of you listening to my podcast. It's amazing how many people listen, and I hope you enjoy the new format that is coming this week. So thank you for listening, and I will be back again next week with some podcasts, and looking forward to recording them with you and sharing them with you. Thank you for listening to the Style for Life podcast. Don't forget, you deserve to feel fabulous at every age, every stage, and at every size. If you're loving the show, hit subscribe and leave a review. It helps more amazing people like you find their way back to life through style. Thanks again. Until next time.